Welcome to Friday 15 with Master B2B. My name is Brian Beck. I'm here with Andy Hoare, my partner in this thought leadership series. And as usual, we are rocking out on Friday morning. Welcome, everyone, to another Friday 15 session. Andy, can we do it in 15 minutes? Probably not.
Well, Brian, just so you know, it's actually Friday afternoon everywhere else in the country. But
Well, that's
out
true.
there in sunny California, it's still the AM. I get it.
Yeah, everyone makes me get up early. I can't stand it. I don't sleep till 10. I haven't done that in a while. Anyhow, folks, welcome to Friday 15. Excited, have some cool topics today. But before we kind of jump in on our topic, we need to hit our breaking news. And here it is. Andy, did you see this? Amazon is testing shopping health assistance as it pushes deeper into Gen AI. They are investing in AI in an impressive way. Andy, what's this all about?
Yeah, really, there's 2 points to the story that are relevant to B2B. One is that they've launched this new thing called Interest AI, which is kind of a natural language interest search engine, but it doesn't require you to be specific. It can just say, like, I know you're a sailor. It could say, I'm into sailing. It'll come back with products and services that are specific to sailing and give you recommendations, almost like a guided selling thing, which I've seen in the search and discovery space. But the more interesting thing is CEO Andy Jassy announced recently with this that Amazon is building 1,000 generative AI applications across the company, which the point here is, I guarantee you some of those 1,000 applications are B2B applications, and they're probably agentic applications, and they could be front office, back office, you name it. But to your point, they're investing big in generative AI, and I think we're going to see a whole wave of announcements in the next year or two that could affect B2B.
Oh, for sure. And, it's fascinating. I remember him saying that he views and the company views AI as being worth tens of billions in revenue to Amazon over the coming years. So no wonder they're investing in this. And it goes right into our topic today, which is all about AI strategy. Amazon obviously has one. Amazon obviously is a monster in this space, in e-commerce, and an innovator. But the question is it better to have an AI strategy for our B2B companies or not? We almost titled this, AI companies or B2B companies shouldn't have an AI strategy, which would have been a compelling topic or a compelling way to say this. But, really the notion here is, with all the things that are going on in, with a lot of these companies and a lot of the opportunities they have, which many of them are foundational, should B2B companies even have an AI strategy? The contrarian view is not having a strategy, don't have a strategy. So this is an article we're showing here for those of you who are watching on LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever format where you can see it. This is an article from the Wall Street Journal that came out this week, or I guess about 2 weeks ago, that says why most companies should not have an AI strategy. Corporate leaders feel they have no choice or risk being left behind. But are they making a mistake? And there's an expert in here that wrote this that believes companies are making a mistake by sort of knee-jerk reacting and saying, I have to have an AI strategy. Well, he says, no, you don't. What's this all about? Yeah.
Well, let's talk first about why you should, the argument for an AI strategy, right? So, if you don't, it'll be a mess. It's a good argument for focusing on the customer experience, avoiding cannibalizing your business. If you don't have one, but the AI takes hold and customers start going in a different direction, they might buy something different. You have a problem with that. To coordinate activities and of course across an organization to share best practices. So that's the reason you should that's always the reason to have a strategy, so you can coordinate efforts and leverage the full power of the organization. This guy's view, which we'll see on the next page here, next slide, is that it's actually a bad idea. And what he wrote was, even if a well-crafted AI strategy were to somehow magically land in a CEO's inbox, the organization likely won't be able to implement it. Most just haven't done the required foundational work. Which is a fascinating idea. This is Joe Papard. He's a professor at a graduate school of business in Ireland. He wrote the piece in the Wall Street Journal. It's a fascinating argument And we were talking beforehand, like I can go either way on this one,
Right.
because on the one hand, he's correct that, it's like handing a drill to a baby. I mean, a baby's not going to know what to do with a drill, but in the hands of a expert craftsman, a drill could build a house, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to be able to do it, but it denies the reality that this thing exists. If you just say, hey, let's just wait and see what happens. I personally think that there's an argument here for having the AI itself be embedded throughout the organization and take a bottom up approach as opposed to a top down, because we know, we've all worked in big companies. In big companies, strategies come from the top down,
Yep.
right? But most innovation, especially innovation that works, was
Bottoms
the
up.
experimentation from the bottom up. And
Yep.
I think maybe this is his larger point is, don't just have, a group of smart people get in a room and decide this is what our strategy is, and then force it down in the organization where it's probably not going to work. It's probably better to say, look, go and play with stuff, see what works, create
Right.
use cases, see what actually develops into something reasonable, and go from there. But what are your thoughts on this?
Well, and it kind of goes to, the stage of these companies. I mean, from a digital maturity standpoint, right? Gartner found that 59% of businesses globally are still considered digitally immature. And then another Digitopia global index, it rated digital maturity at only 2.95 on a 5-point scale. So, Andy, my personal opinion is similar to yours in that I think AI tools and practical approaches can actually advance companies' digital maturity. I, I think I think there's a difference in having a strategy and actually practical application. I mean, strategy is fine. It's it's grandiose. We need to use AI to do this and that, but the actual tactical application, and it can be bottoms up. To your point, we saw cases of this at our summit. We're going to highlight one in a moment. I see it every day. I mean, we even use, in my Enceba business, we use it for specific things to accelerate and improve product content for Amazon, right? I mean, it has real practical applications. I think the danger in saying you shouldn't have an AI strategy is then it allows folks to say, la la la, close my ears. I'm just going to ignore it because it's easy to ignore things. Like we know our B2B friends like to ignore, I don't know, e-commerce. you know and that's kind of put us in a situation where B2B is so far behind B2C in digital maturity. And so I think the danger in making a bold statement like, hey, you shouldn't have an AI strategy, is it gives our B2B leadership an excuse to ignore it. And I think that would be a complete mistake. You should not ignore it because it has practical application, but it does need to be practical, and it does need to be, bottoms up. I think is a great way to do it, empowering and allowing people to play with it. Don't be necessarily afraid of it. Put guardrails around it. But I think you have to pay attention to it. And whether we call it a strategy or whatever you call it, you have to be looking at how it can improve productivity in particular.
Well, how many companies have we talked to in the last 2 years that when they talk about an AI strategy, what they really mean is a governance framework?
Or
And
right,
and that means we want to control it.
right,
And it's almost, they operate out of fear as opposed to opportunity. And that to me is where I see the biggest difference. Is some companies are like, hey, everybody's playing around with different stuff. We can't have that. Why
right,
not?
right,
I mean, why not? But so when you try and control something, it makes you feel good. They have mandates that come from the top down. The C-suite says, "Okay, we've got our hands around this." Meanwhile, they're stomping out in any innovation, because by controlling everything, they're controlling everything. And AI is something that actually is designed not to be controlled. That's the whole point of it.
Well, and I think it's also, when these new innovations come around, and AI being one, but historically e-com and other things, they instill fear, and, oh, we need a strategy. They knee jerk reaction. Well, what I mean is, it's a tool. Let's it's a tool, and
But I want to point, you're right about the fear thing. This is a fascinating statement, because who does it instill fear in? Customers?
no,
No. Who
no,
does it instill fear in?
the executive.
Sellers.
Yes.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
they're going to get blindsided. They're not going to know what to do with it. But if they took more of a customer-centric approach, like the tech companies aren't afraid of these things, Amazon's not afraid of these
Nope.
things, but more traditional companies
Right.
that are they take a caution first approach to this stuff are definitely going to be fearful of it. But maybe that's the bigger issue is
Right.
when these technologies come along and they enable you to get closer to your customers, do a better job personalizing experiences, deliver higher
Mhm.
value. That's a good thing, not a bad thing, and not something to be
Absolutely.
controlled.
Absolutely. Well, and this fellow, this Professor Papard, he went on to say, if you don't have good data, so this is his crux of his argument, and the companies are not ready. If you don't have good data, this is a quote. You can have strategic intent, but you won't be able to execute it. The strategy will simply divert attention from what the company really needs to do. Okay, maybe. I don't fully agree with him because AI can be used to address issues like data, data
Well, that's
cleanliness.
the irony, isn't
Right.
it? That we agree that if you don't have good data, you're going to have problems. Period. End of discussion. Full stop. We agree on that one. But
Right.
we don't agree that AI, not to do the double negative here, I'll switch it around. AI can actually help improve your data.
Right.
So if you
Exactly.
try and if you just say we don't want a strategy around AI, you're saying we don't want a strategy with regard to AI helping us improve our data, which
It's a
doesn't make sense.
tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It's a tool. And I mean, Gardner even put on this particular issue, 40% of businesses fail to achieve their objectives due to missing, incomplete, or inaccurate data. Okay. But then, but we have these cases that we'll get to in a moment where, it's actually helping, right? And we heard that at the summit. But we asked our audience this question: can AI accelerate digital maturity at immature organizations? Or should less mature organizations hold off on AI initiatives? 100% said it can accelerate, and I agree with our community on this. I think it can, and well, great, and I think you agree too, Andy. And a great case of this is Schneider Electric, right? We had this at our summit. Eric Rell, VP of Digital Customer Experience from Schneider, we highlighted this on our Friday 15, I think last week. But what did he do? He ran into a situation where he had 50% of his SKUs were not ready for e-com selling. He used AI, trained it on PIM data and technical documentation. And guess what? It accelerated him to 75% data readiness on 14,000 SKUs. The time to improve the SKUs went down. This is now Schneider has some digital maturity, no question. It's not a fully digitally mature organization, but like many manufacturers, they have a lot of opportunity to improve and to streamline them. This is a great example of that. Guess what? He used AI. So if we close our ears and are afraid of AI and having a strategy, and I agree that some of the foundational elements, as the professor was saying, are important, but it can help with those foundational elements. And here's a case in point, right?
Yeah, well, let's play out his argument in the reverse, the contrarian view. He would say that Eric, by applying AI in this particular case and thinking through AI and using AI, would be in effect distracting Eric from doing other things that are more important.
Right.
Perhaps he's got a title of digital customer experience. Maybe he should be focusing on other priorities like personalizing the website, or
Right.
maybe he should be having a better search engine instead of, and I'm just making this up hypothetically, wasting his time using
Right.
AI in an experimental way to
Right.
improve data because the data is not ready. But then you get into the circular argument. Well, how are you ever going to improve the data if you don't improve the data? So
Right.
I'm with you. I think some of his arguments are interesting. It
Yeah.
highlights the fact that companies have to move, they have to think about AI not as something they can just plug in and it works. They have to rethink their go to market, their go to customer. And that is something that too many companies don't do. They just continue doing things the exact same way and figure we'll just swap this thing in without thinking differently about their businesses, which I've used this analogy. I always come back to because I think it's just fantastic about the steam engine and the electric motor. When the steam engine was in place during the Industrial Revolution, um, along came the electric motor, and companies said, "Oh, let's put the electric motor in place because it's better." And what they found is it made no difference. In fact, it made things somewhat worse. If we were to extrapolate from this guy's argument, he would say, "Yeah, that was stupid. Just keep the steam engine in place until you can change your business. Well, what
Right.
ended up happening was the technology actually led them to change their business, because when you put the electric motor in, it enabled you to
Hmm.
project power over distance, and it gave rise to the assembly line.
Yeah.
That would not have come along if people hadn't been playing around with or experimenting with their version of AI, the electric
Right.
motor. So, I do agree with him that it isn't about the technology. It never is. It's about the business. But
Right.
sometimes the technology can actually transform the business.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when Eric and maybe we should have him back on our Friday 15, Andy. But when Eric embarked on this effort, it is in some ways it's not zero sum, but you have to make decisions on where you're going to invest your time and effort, right? As a VP of digital, where am I going to place my bets? Well, when he started this, he didn't necessarily know that AI was going to help him do that. I mean, he had a theory, right, that AI would help him do this, but he didn't necessarily know that. So he had to weigh the benefit. And there's real, he talks about, e-commerce lift for his channel and other things that have paid back this time and effort for him substantially, but he didn't know. So it's a little bit of the Amazon approach here. It's, test and learn. It's, trying some things that you're not certain. And, so yeah, there's a little risk in this, in this AI stuff, because it is new. I'm sure he didn't exactly know how much productivity he can get by applying this AI to his product data, but he got some pretty tremendous efficiency. And as these cases are proven out, I think companies are remiss in not using these tools. I think you have to be paying attention and trying and testing things, which runs contrary to the whole cultural fiber of B2B companies, right? I mean, the companies are very conservative. They want to business case everything to death. And so, it's kind of us, constantly pounding our community members to, guys, be thinking out of the box, be trying things. You don't have to have 100% of the information before you make a decision. Make a reasonable decision based on 80% of the data. And I think Eric did that here, and it's paid off. So interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see other practical use cases like this as they emerge.
Yep.
So, go ahead, Andy. Any thoughts?
No, go ahead.
So, wanted to, we're coming past our time here, Andy. So I want to just make a couple quick announcements. Thrilled that our Nexus program is now off the ground. We have our a bunch of charter members. We announced it 2 weeks ago at our Mindshare Summit, and folks, we now have folks signing up for this. Some really fantastic executives have joined our Nexus program. This is a program which is really it's almost like a concierge. It's unlike the traditional research services. It provides peer-to-peer expert advisors and advice and information and custom research and all sorts of benefits for people that join this program. It is for practitioners only. It provides access to these experts. It provides facilitated networking. We'll get you an answer to any question you have within really 5 days is our commitment. And it could be data. It could be how do I hire? It could be, so it reduces your risks of making decisions, and it helps you with practical advice. So
Well,
excited to
plus,
have Nexus
who's got
off the
time
ground.
to spend? Yeah, who has time to spend all day long getting answers to this stuff? You have your head down running a business,
Yeah,
and it's like having assistant coaches for a team, right? You can't coach
right.
everything. Wouldn't it be great if you could outsource this to somebody else who could come back to you with the actual, vetted advice? So that's the whole point of this. And so far, so good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we've had questions like, just yesterday we got questions on how do I solve for some customer adoption, right? One of our Nexus members had a very specific case and particular type of dealer they're working with and wanted some answers. And we connected him immediately to someone who had been down the path and could help him with specific answers to those questions and tactics he could use in his business. So that's what that Nexus is all about. Folks, we have our forum, online forum. If you're not a member there, you need to join it. It's free for practitioners only. No software or solution providers in there. So this is an open and transparent and trusted online community. Again, no cost. Go to masterb2b.com and look for the forum, and you can apply for membership. We have a number of roundtables coming up, Andy: Cleveland, Minneapolis, Charlotte, Cincinnati, LA, and New York City over the next couple of months. Go to our website, sign up for those. Those are wonderful late afternoon discussions followed by dinner. Awesome networking, 15 to 25 people in that range, and really a great groups and great discussions. And then finally, want to remind everyone that our Friday 15 is available by a podcast format, as you probably know, because you're probably listening to it that way. It's on Spotify, Google, Apple, our website, YouTube, across the galaxy, broadcast everywhere. And encourage you to also give us a review. We would be very, very grateful. Oh, well, really only if you like it. But please go ahead and give us a review as well. It helps a lot. Andy, we're over Friday 20. Oh, no. As usual, any final thoughts before we wrap?
No, I'm looking forward to getting back on the road. I'll be back in my home state of Ohio for Cleveland and Cincinnati. So it'll be good to see the Buckeye State again.
Yeah. Well, good luck. We'll see you guys there. And we'll see everyone at the next Friday 15, 1 week from today. Thanks for joining, folks.